Golden Finger, Zhutian reading system. Brain storage space. We've arrived at the terminal. Passengers, please exit the bus in an orderly fashion and take all personal belongings with you. At the Eastern Passenger Terminal in Spring City, the bus pulled into the station and came to a stop at the designated drop-off point. The driver, a middle-aged man with a cigarette dangling from his lips, stood and called out, prompting the passengers to gather their belongings and disembark. In the last row, a thin young man remained motionless, his head leaning against the window as he dozed off. When the last of the passengers had exited, the driver, now visibly impatient, approached the young man and gave his shoulder a few firm nudges. "Hey, wake up. We're here." The young man jolted awake, his eyes snapping open as he shouted, "Zhao, I swear." Startled by the outburst, the driver flinched, dropping his cigarette onto his arm. Wincing at the burn, he barked, "What's with the yelling? Get off the bus already." The rebuke snapped the young man out of his daze. He blinked, looking around the empty bus in confusion. Am I dead?" he murmured. "Why? Dead? What nonsense are you spouting? Get off the bus," the driver grumbled, shoving the young man upright. Finally regaining his composure, the young man used the seat in front of him for support and made his way to the exit. "Don't forget your stuff," the driver added, tossing a black backpack and a book into his arms before pushing him out of the bus. Outside, the young man stood in a daze, clutching the backpack as the bus roared off toward the parking lot. Around him, the terminal buzzed with life. Vendors shouted their wares, travelers hurried by, and the sun shone brightly overhead. The vibrant scene stirred something in his memory. Slowly, realization dawned. I'm reborn," he whispered. His name was Wang Mingyang, a recent college graduate who had been working as a salesperson for a consumer goods company. The last thing he remembered was dying. As the thought sank in, a middle-aged woman with a broad smile hurried up to him. "Hey there, handsome. Need a place to stay? Our hotel is just 80 yuan a night." Wang Mingyang barely acknowledged her, his mind still spinning. "No, I don't need." The woman leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "We've got hot water all day, and some nice single ladies, if you know what I mean." Her words finally brought him back to reality. Looking around, everything felt so vivid, so real. "I really have gone back in time." His eyes gleamed with newfound determination, and the corners of his mouth curved into a faint smile. Mistaking his expression for interest, the woman's enthusiasm surged. "Great. Follow me, just a short walk from here." Before Wang Mingyang could react, she grabbed his wrist and began dragging him along. "Hey, let go of me," he shouted, yanking his arm free and stumbling backward. "What's your problem?" "It's negotiable," she called after him, her cheerful demeanor darkening as he walked away without looking back. Muttering curses under her breath, she turned her attention to other potential customers, plastering her smile back on. At the station exit, Wang Mingyang pulled out his phone and checked the date. May 25, 2035, 3:25 p.m. 5 years ago. I've gone back 5 years. His hands clenched around the device. But there's less than a day left before the apocalypse begins. In his previous life, this was the day he returned to Spring City from a business trip. The next day, everything fell apart. Zombies emerged overnight, plunging the world into chaos. Power grids failed, communications went down, and humanity's death toll soared above 80%. Wang Mingyang had managed to survive for 5 years, awakening an ability along the way. But his powers were mediocre, and betrayal had ultimately led to his death. Now, he had a second chance. "Zhao, Wang Ruoqing, Han Jun, just wait. This time, I'll settle the score." The murderous resolve in his eyes was palpable, drawing curious glances from passers-by. As he adjusted the backpack in his arms, a book slipped from it, landing on the ground with a soft thud. 300 Children's Songs. The cartoonish goldfish on the cover seemed to stare up at him, its eyes sparkling with mischief. Wang Mingyang froze, staring at the book in disbelief. Was this a joke? The corners of Wang Mingyang's mouth twitched slightly, and many painful memories emerged in his mind. When the apocalypse came in the last life, he huddled in a rental house, surviving for a week with only a few packages of instant noodles and a few ham sausages left. The internet and circuits were all cut off. In boredom, he flipped through this children's book that someone had left behind on the bus, and he actually awakened his superpower on the 7th day. And his awakened power, just like the little goldfish in this cover, can release a water bubble with a certain degree of defense. Relying on this water bubble, he stepped out of the house, killed a few zombies, and collected some food to survive. Reaching out and grabbing this book of 300 children's songs, Wang Mingyang gently opened the pages, and a familiar picture came into his eyes. Little goldfish, blow bubbles, a good baby who doesn't cry or fuss. You can swim around without any worries. It's amazing how you can blow bubbles. Haha. Wang Mingyang smiled bitterly. It's really you, old man. In the 5 years since the end of the world, various creatures around the world have evolved crazily, and a total of 9 levels have been set based on their strength. Every time Wang Mingyang advanced to a level, he acquired a primary power by reading the 300 children's songs. Before his death, he acquired a total of 5 powers. It stands to reason that with the 5 great powers, he should sweep across the heavens and dominate the world. But the strange thing is that 4 of these 5 abilities are basic auxiliary abilities: defensive bubble, lighting, underwater breathing, communication. The most useful defensive bubble. As the level increases, you can reach one of 5 normal attacks at the same level. Illumination. Release a lighting ball to illuminate a 10-meter radius. But in the apocalypse, zombies and mutated creatures are very sensitive to light sources, unless they are in a specific environment. Otherwise, they are a master at attracting monsters, and the chance of being besieged is 100%. Underwater breathing technique. It can be applied to the opponent's body to produce an airbag surrounding the head, allowing the person to breathe for half an hour. But the problem is that in the apocalypse, the creatures mutate, and the most ferocious ones are the monsters in the water. When humans enter the water, their strength will be reduced. If they jump into rivers, lakes, and seas, they are simply seeking death. Communication technique. Release an illusory homing pigeon to communicate, but the range is only 1 to 5 kilometers, and only 10 words can be transmitted at a time. Even though it has improved with the growth of strength, its power is still limited. The only freezing spell that can be regarded as an attack ability can at best freeze zombies with 1st and 2nd level strength, and they have to step forward to hit them. In the apocalypse, humans divide awakened powers into 6 levels: S, A, B, C, D, and E. However, the 5 powers that Wang Mingyang possesses are jokingly called F level, because even the poorest level abilities can gradually evolve and strengthen as the owner's level increases. However, even if Wang Mingyang's 5 superpowers have evolved, their strength is pitiful. Therefore, Wang Mingyang, who possesses 5 major powers, is often jokingly called 3 stars and 5 wastes. Samsung is really sad. 5 wastes are really useless. Recalling all this, Wang Mingyang smiled bitterly in his heart. It was not that he had not found other books to read in the last 5 years, but for some reason, he just couldn't obtain supernatural powers. It seems that the source of all his abilities is this book, 300 Children's Songs. Ding. Books detected. Bound to host. Zhutian reading system starts countdown. 5, 4, 3. A soft sound rang out from his mind. Wang Mingyang was shocked all over, with a trace of confusion in his eyes. Ding. The system was successfully bound. It was detected that the host was familiar with 300 children's songs and extracted the E-level ability, Bubble Technique. Do you want to absorb it? System? Bubble Technique? Wang Mingyang's mind went blank. After being reborn, he actually still had the system? Am I the son of destiny in this life? But what the hell is the Bubble Technique? Ding. May I ask the host, does it absorb the Bubble Technique? Shaking his head, Wang Mingyang was extremely excited at the moment, but he must not absorb this Bubble Technique. The magical bubble technique was somewhat useful at the beginning of the apocalypse, but it was basically useless later on. With the system in this life, I will definitely not be called a 3-star or 5 waste again. System? What will happen if it is not absorbed? Wang Mingyang tried to ask. Ding. If it is not absorbed, the bubble technique will be stored in the system bookshelf and can be fused later. What is fusion? Wang Mingyang continued to ask. Ding. By reading and understanding various books, the host will extract the corresponding abilities, which can be fused into new abilities. Fuck. My dick exploded. Wang Mingyang pumped his fists excitedly and at the same time began to think in his mind. Since this system can extract other powers, the bubble technique, absorption is impossible, and it will never be absorbed in this life. System, store the bubble technique in the bookshelf. Wang Mingyang gave the order firmly. Ding. Okay, host, bubble technique has been stored in the bookshelf. System, can you please not ding? My head hurts. Wang Mingyang frowned when he heard the ding sound again in his mind. Ding. Sorry, this is the built-in setting of Zhutian reading system and cannot be changed temporarily. Damn, there are some bugs in this system. Ding. Host, please be careful in your words and deeds. As this is the host's first offense, no punishment will be imposed for the time being. Please remember that the system development master is supreme. There is only right and no wrong. There is no doubt. Okay. The development master is supreme. Wang Mingyang was stunned and did not dare to complain anymore. Who knows what the punishment will be, but it is not a good thing. Wang Mingyang is as happy as the readers in front of his mobile phone who are happy to mention the first prize of Shuang Sikiu after being reborn. But there was less than 1 day left before the end, and he didn't want to repeat the tragic experience of his previous life. Since the Zhutian reading system can extract powers, then Wang Mingyang looked around, not caring about the wallet in WeChat that did not exceed 5 digits with 2 decimal points, and went straight to the taxi to pick up the passengers. Click and run. Opening the car door, Wang Mingyang quickly got into the car, patted the driver's seat, and said urgently, Master, the provincial library will be there in 20 minutes. Please pay more. Let's go. Okay. Sit down now. When the driver's aunt, who was still holding a cigarette in her mouth, heard this, she immediately spit out the cigarette but skillfully shifted into gear, released the brake, and stepped on the accelerator. The taxi made a roar and rushed forward suddenly. Wang Mingyang, who was caught off guard, was pinned down in the back seat by a huge force. A series of drifts crossed the road, and the taxi quickly drove onto the third ring road. Wang Mingyang in the back seat rubbed his shoulders and sat up. He quickly pulled the seatbelt and tied it on himself, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. I couldn't help but give a thumbs up to the rearview mirror. The driver's mother grinned. Don't worry, I'll deliver it to you in no more than 15 minutes. Okay, at your speed. I believe it. If you arrive safely, I will pay you 100 yuan directly. Wang Mingyang was very happy. Now that time is more valuable than money to him. He doesn't care about the money at all. Look, you are absolutely safe. I am a 20-year veteran driver. The driver's aunt smiled even more, but she also drove more focused. Wang Mingyang stopped talking and picked up the 300 children's songs on the side, looking through it quickly with a hint of excitement in his eyes. Big cock, so beautiful, wearing a red crown and a floral dress. As soon as the sky breaks, he cries, call the sun to rise quickly. Ding. It has been detected that the host is familiar with 300 children's songs and extracted the E-level ability, lighting technique. Do you want to absorb it? Don't absorb it. Put it on the bookshelf. Wang Mingyang gave the order directly in his mind without raising his head. Ding. Lighting technique has been put on the bookshelf. Host, please study hard. Little dove. Great ability. Thousands of miles. Send a letter home. Ding. It has been detected that the host is familiar with 300 children's songs and extracted the E-level ability communication technique. Do you want to absorb it? Put it away on the bookshelf. Ding. Messaging technique has been put on the bookshelf. Please host to study hard. The refrigerator is amazing. Put fruits and vegetables neatly, filled with chicken, duck, and fish meat. Keeping it fresh and quality depends on you. Ding. It has been detected that the host is familiar with 300 children's songs and extracted the E-level ability, freezing technique. Do you want to absorb it? Put it away on the bookshelf. Ding. Freezing technique has been put on the bookshelf. Host, please study hard. Ding. Underwater breathing has been put on the bookshelf. Host, please study hard. Ding. Bounce technique has been put on the bookshelf. Host, please study hard. Ding. The art of silking has been put on the bookshelf. Please host to study hard. Read more advanced books. A hashtag. Well, after reading 300 children's songs for more than 10 minutes, Wang Mingyang was stunned for a moment when a different voice came from his mind. Reading a more advanced book? The system seems a little angry. Wang Mingyang silently closed 300 children's songs and put it into his backpack. Although the powers he obtained were relatively poor, this book did help him survive for 5 years in his previous life. If he hadn't been betrayed by his teammates in the end, he would probably have continued to survive. Wang Mingyang still has feelings for this children's book that has been with him for 5 years and has contributed a lot to it. However, now that I have been reborn and obtained the Zhutian reading system, I really need to read some advanced books to obtain more powerful powers. This is the right path. System, can I choose to fuse these E-level abilities? Ding. It can be fused, but the superpower after fusion is unpredictable. If it's unpredictable, then it's unpredictable. The system has integrated these dozen abilities. Wang Mingyang chose to fuse without hesitation. Ding. Fusion failed. Gah. Why did it fail? Wang Mingyang was stunned. The first fusion failed. Isn't this a scam? Ding. The host's reading value is insufficient. Basic fusion requires 100 reading points, and a maximum of 3 abilities can be fused at a time. The reading value currently possessed by the host is 1 point. Damn, do you need a reading value? What is a reading value? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Ding. The Zhutian reading system requires the host to explore it by himself. Everything is possible. You're cruel. How do you get this reading value? Wang Mingyang quietly raised his middle finger and asked helplessly. Ding. The reading value comes from the amount of reading of the host. The more books you read, the higher the knowledge content of the books, the more thorough your understanding, the more reading value. Then why only 1 o'clock? Ding. The host is familiar with 300 children's songs and understands it thoroughly, but the knowledge content of this book is very low and it is a children's book. As the first book read by the host, 1 reading point will be given for encouragement. Wang Mingyang understood that the amount of book reading, knowledge content, and knowledge understanding are all the sources and requirements of reading value. 300 children's songs, as a children's enlightenment book, does not have much knowledge content. No matter how thorough the understanding is, it is just that. This little reading value is really not unfair. But why? Wang Mingyang felt that he had started to burst into tears. As a poor student, although he has the system, he still has to study hard. Also need to understand thoroughly. This is too hard, okay? A bit miserable. At this moment, Wang Mingyang just wants to ask, which book can make people extremely smart? Waiting online is very urgent. The harsh sound of the brakes was heard, and the taxi suddenly stopped on the side of the road. Wang Mingyang's body leaned forward with the inertia and was quickly pulled back to the seat by the seatbelt. He groaned and covered his forehead with an ouch. Snort. Young man, the provincial library is here. The driver's mother turned around and smiled. This speed is indeed amazing, worthy of a 20-year-old driver. Wang Mingyang rubbed his head and turned around to look, and saw a magnificent tall building rising from the ground on the right. A tall glass door stood on the steps, and the name of the provincial library was clearly visible. Thank you, Aunt. Your car drives really fast. I picked up my phone and quickly scanned the QR code to pay, and 100 yuan was quickly credited to my account. Wang Mingyang looked at the suddenly smaller number in his wallet, gave the driver a thumbs up, opened the door and quickly got out of the car. Let's go. Grab your things. The driver's mother smiled and waved. Wang Mingyang was about to step up the steps, but his body froze and he turned around and ran back to the taxi. Young man, have you forgotten something? The driver's aunt looked confused but still asked with a smile. The backpack is down? Wang Mingyang opened the car door and took out his backpack. There are no important items in the bag, but when I come to the library, I definitely want to borrow a few books. It's more convenient to have a backpack. The driver's mother looked at his leaving figure and shook her head. This young man is dusty, like a college student who has just entered society. It's really not easy for children today. The driver's aunt's heart moved slightly, thinking of her daughter who had graduated 3 years ago and was still working as a waiter in a hotel. While he skillfully started the car, he whispered in a low voice, "Work another night shift and cook a good meal tomorrow." Wang Mingyang stood at the gate and looked back at the taxi. It had already gone to the next intersection and couldn't help but sigh. Tomorrow at 12 noon, the end will come, and the zombies will break out and countless people will die immediately. This lady's skills were great and saved him a lot of time. I hope she will have her own destiny. Turning around and walking into the hall, Wang Mingyang thought about the categories of books he wanted to find. In the short 10 minutes in the taxi, he extracted a dozen skills, and he probably also figured out some of the rules of the system. Although the extracted abilities are relatively random, overall they are still within a certain range. Bubble technique is derived from little goldfish, which can spit bubbles. Illumination is derived from little rooster. The rooster crows at dawn. Messaging technique is derived from little carrier pigeon, which can naturally convey messages. Freezing is derived from refrigerator, which is easier to understand. Isn't the refrigerator used for freezing? The spinner, when he was reading The Little Spider. Obviously, the abilities extracted by the system are related to the content he is reading. It seems that if you want to extract powerful abilities, you need to read relevant books in a targeted manner. In previous lives, human beings awaken various powers. In addition, high-level evolved zombies and mutant creatures all have different special abilities. Human beings have summarized several major power systems, namely the strengthening system, the elemental system, the spiritual system, the transformation system, and the mysterious system. Tai. Before Wang Mingyang was stabbed in the back, the most powerful among humans were the 2 black and white emperors, and the 5 emperors and 9 heavenly kings. These 16 people who stood at the pinnacle of humanity were all powerful beings at the peak of the 9th level or beyond. One of the most powerful black and white emperors is the Black Emperor of China. He has awakened the S-level dark ability in the elemental system. His whole body is shrouded in black mist, and various extremely lethal moves emerge in an endless stream. The other is the White Emperor of the Western Federation. It is said that he was once a fanatic of the light cult. He awakened the S-level light ability in the elemental system. He was surrounded by holy white light and was as powerful as an angel in the Bible. The 5 emperors belong to different nationalities. There is only one sword emperor in China, and his specific abilities are unknown, but the ring-headed sword in his hand can cut out the sword light in the sky and can crush the world in single combat and group attacks. 2 of the remaining 4 emperors are from the mysterious system. 1 is from the transformation system, and 1 is from the light system. They have all developed their abilities to the extreme, and they are all extremely powerful. Among the 9 heavenly kings, China occupies 3 of them, namely the thunder system, the space system, and the strengthening system. The other 6 kings have 2 spiritual systems, 1 of the fire system, 1 of the strengthening system, 1 of the transformation system, and 1 of the mysterious system. In fact, these 16 strong men rarely fought with each other, and were judged more based on their records with high-level zombies and mutated creatures. But the strength of the Black and White Emperor is beyond doubt, and has been recognized by everyone including the 5 emperors and 9 heavenly kings. Wang Mingyang searched the memories in his mind. The strength of the Black and White Emperors was unparalleled, and it was closely related to their own abilities. In fact, there are many people who have awakened dark and light powers after the end of the world, but the only one who can be invincible in the world is the Black and White Emperor. The power of superpowers is just the foundation. After that, it needs to be continuously developed and evolved, and the nuclei of mutant creatures of the same type need to be plundered for improvement. The so-called space is king and time is respected. Destiny is not revealed, cause and effect is king. Wang Mingyang once heard about a strong man with time-based superpowers, but he was killed by the Sword King, who was also at the 8th level at the time, and died. This just shows that the strength of the strong does not entirely depend on the superpower itself. After being reborn, Wang Mingyang was blessed by the All-Heaven reading system, but in his previous life he only reached the 5th level, but he still had a lot of talent. At this moment, he just wants to extract some extremely powerful abilities in the early stage. Otherwise, he will not be confident that he can compete with those powerful people with extraordinary talents. Space, time, darkness, and light. These powers that are relatively powerful in the early stage are Wang Mingyang's first choice. Fire, thunder, and lightning, gravity, metal control, animal transformation, and extremely powerful in the early stage. He wanted to own the most mysterious fantasy reality, but he had no clue about the books related to it. There are many tables and chairs in the library for people to rest and study. At this moment, the network communication is still going on. Wang Mingyang found a seat and sat down. He put 300 children's songs on the table and started to search for various books on his mobile phone. A Brief History of Time, The Creation of Space, Dimensional Space, Flatland. Wang Mingyang looked at the catalogs of these books related to time and space, and his head hurt. Among these books, he was lucky enough to have heard of A Brief History of Time, and knew that it was written by the famous Mr. Hua, but he had never read it. But right now, he has no choice. If he wants to extract space and time powers, he probably can only start with these books. There are many books related to science such as flames, thunder and lightning, gravity, and metals. It is definitely not more difficult to understand than books related to time and space. However, Wang Mingyang feels that since he has lived a new life, he still needs to have a little ambition. I looked up and looked around. There was a counter in the hall with several librarians standing inside. Wang Mingyang picked up the bag, put 300 children's songs in it, stood up and walked to the counter. Hello, what do you need? A girl wearing work clothes and a ponytail at the counter raised her head and looked at Wang Mingyang in front of the counter with surprise. There was a pause in his tone, but he quickly adjusted it with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Wang Mingyang, who was used to seeing unkempt women in the apocalypse, brightened up with his bright eyes and white teeth. A hot figure that even work clothes could not conceal, and a youthful and pretty face. The strange thing is that he felt that this girl had a faint sense of familiarity, and he couldn't figure out the reason after thinking about it. Hello, I need to look up these books. Wang Mingyang quickly reported the titles of several books. Although the girl in front of him was beautiful, he had no time to appreciate it at the moment. Okay, please wait a moment. The girl nodded, smiled politely, lowered her head, and worked quickly on the computer. After a while, the girl raised her head and said apologetically, I'm sorry to keep you waiting for so long. The creation of space is currently missing. You can go to the natural subjects on the 3rd floor to find A Brief History of Time, Dimensional Space, can be found in the Mathematical Science and Chemistry category on the 3rd floor, and Flatland can be found in the Literature and Art category on the 4th floor. Okay, thank you. Wang Mingyang nodded. Although one book was missing, he thought these 3 books were enough for him to read. After all, there are only 20 hours before the end of the world comes. In such a short period of time, after reading the book, you still need to have a certain understanding before you can extract the superpower. For him, as a scumbag, this is a difficult task. Of course, you can also read books that can improve your reading speed or comprehension first. Maybe we can extract auxiliary abilities in this area. Reading in this way will get twice the result with half the effort. Unfortunately, there was only so little time left. Wang Mingyang thought over and over again and decided to come up with 1 or 2 special abilities first. As long as you can survive, there is plenty of time to improve your reading speed and comprehension. You're welcome, happy reading. The girl responded with a smile and bowed slightly. When Wang Mingyang turned around and left, a bright smile gradually appeared on the face of the girl who was standing straight. Quickly walking up to the 3rd floor, Wang Mingyang glanced around and saw that there were many bookshelves in the huge library. Thinking that I was about to swim in the ocean of knowledge, I couldn't help but twitch the corner of my mouth. Finding the natural science area, Wang Mingyang began to rummage quickly. As a provincial library, there were so many books in it that it was like an ocean. The natural science category alone occupies an area of thousands of square meters. Wang Mingyang spent more than 10 minutes in the 2 areas before finding 2 books. I ran to the 4th floor and searched for a long time, and finally found the last copy of Flatland. Returning to the reading area on the 3rd floor and finding a seat to sit down, Wang Mingyang looked at the 3 books in front of him and carefully considered which one to read first. A Brief History of Time is famous, but from the content point of view, space knowledge is not the only one. It covers time, space, universe, quantum mechanics, and other knowledge. Wang Mingyang got a rough understanding of these when searching online. Flatland is strictly a science fiction novel. Otherwise, it would not be classified as literature. After thinking about it, Wang Mingyang's eyes fell on dimensional space. He reached out and picked up this book that analyzes space from a mathematical geometric perspective. He took a deep breath and prepared to start reading hard. The full name of the book, Dimensional Space, should be From Zero-Dimensional Space to Four-Dimensional Space, and it is not another novel book with the same name. Wang Mingyang thought very clearly about which abilities are best for survival and attack in the apocalypse. Among them must be the space system ability. Whether it is creating storage space or manipulating space to transfer, cut, twist, etc., the ability is extremely powerful. As long as you can figure out one of them, you can benefit from it throughout your life. If it's storage space, that's even better. I will definitely be crazy about online loans, and I will go directly to the supermarket early tomorrow morning to do crazy shopping. You don't even need to buy anything. You can find a large supermarket and squat down. When the end of the world comes, you can take away the entire supermarket. Time passed slowly, and Wang Mingyang read the book in his hand carefully, trying to understand every word and sentence. But all this was still a bit too difficult for him. After all, he is a liberal arts student, and his high school grades are not among the best. 2 hours have passed, and the number of words in this book, Dimensional Space, is not that many. Wang Mingyang read word for word and sentence by sentence, trying to understand the content of the book and trying to understand every bit. In fact, as a modern person, we all understand the concept of three-dimensional space. But when he ascended to the fourth-dimensional space, he started to get blind. When he finally turned the last page and slowly closed the book, the system prompt sounded as expected. Ding! It was detected that the host was reading Dimension Space for the first time, and the S-level ability, Space Cutting Fragment, was extracted +1. The Space Cutting ability was 1/10, and the reward reading value was 1,000 points. S-level? It's actually S-level, that's great. Wang Mingyang just read this book for the first time, but he didn't expect that he could actually extract spatial powers. And it directly reaches S-level, which is so surprising. S-level, compared to his previous E-level powers, the bright moon is like a firefly. Wang Mingyang is quite satisfied with the 1,000-point reading value. This way he can fuse those useless E-level powers. But what the hell is this space-cutting fragment? The system gives quite a lot of reading values, but why are they fragments? The knowledge contained in this book is considered intermediate, and after reading it, the host only understands a small part of the content of this book, and the abilities that can be extracted are incomplete. Holy crap, how many times do I have to read to extract the space power? Wang Mingyang went crazy. The number of times is not important. The key is the host's understanding of knowledge. However, in view of the host's low level of understanding, this system recommends that the host read the book multiple times and deepen his understanding. The meaning of the book will be apparent after reading it 100 times. Wang Mingyang was ridiculed by the system for his black hair. Doesn't a scumbag have no human rights? Alright, if you want to fully obtain this space-cutting power, ideally, you would have to read this book a dozen times. Forget it. I'll fight for my S-level power. Ignoring the growling of his stomach, Wang Mingyang concentrated on chewing the book. This is the basis for whether he can counterattack in the future. It wasn't until 21:30 in the evening, when the library was about to close, that Wang Mingyang reluctantly raised his head. Space cutting ability, 8 out of 10, reward reading value 100 points. I was very embarrassed and got stuck on the last 2 points. I read it twice in a row but failed to extract it successfully. The reading value stayed at 1,801 points. It seems that each book only has a lot of reading value when you read it for the first time, and the reading value obtained later will be much less. Sighing that reading was not easy, Wang Mingyang stood up and walked downstairs with 3 books in his arms. The library is closed, and he can't stay here forever. We can only take the book back first and get the superpower first. I passed an area on the way and looked up and saw that it was a natural science area. Wang Mingyang thought about it carefully and found 3 more books about flames, thunder and lightning, and metals to bring with him, just in case. While walking on the stairs, Wang Mingyang suddenly thought of a question. The Zhutian reading system requires reading to extract supernatural powers. Will he need to keep looking for books after the end of the world? In the system, reading ebooks can also extract powers and reward reading points. Ding! This system pays attention to tradition. Please read the physical book. Damn it! Can't you keep up with the times? Wang Mingyang complained crazily in his heart. Since ebooks are not available, is there any way for the system to collect the books here? Ding! The system currently does not have the function of storing physical objects. However, the system can be upgraded through reading values, and the next level can scan and store various books for the host to read. Wang Mingyang's eyes lit up. How many reading points are needed to upgrade? Ding! The reading value required for the first stage of upgrade is 10,000 points, and the host's current reading value is 1,801 points. Good guy, you need 10,000 points, which is equivalent to reading at least 10 books with the same difficulty as Dimensional Space for the first time. This one took 3 hours, and the 10 books took at least 30 hours. My head is split. Looking around the libraries, the only ones with such a large collection of books are the major libraries in urban areas and the only large libraries in universities. Xinhua bookstore and so on, mainly test papers, physical novels, and the like. It is incomparable to major libraries. If Wang Mingyang wants to increase his strength in the early stages, he must read more books as soon as possible. But the university library will definitely be filled with college students during the day tomorrow, and the danger of a zombie outbreak is too high. It seems that I have to come back here tomorrow, upgrade the system, and scan all the books and take them away. Wang Mingyang looked at the dazzling array of books. This is not a book. It is simply a super library of superpowers. Wiping the rash on his lips, Wang Mingyang turned and walked towards the hall downstairs, secretly making up his mind. I won't sleep tonight. We must collect the space-cutting fragments. In front of the counter in the lobby, the pretty girl is still standing behind the counter. Wang Mingyang put down a few books, and after the pretty girl completed the borrowing procedures for him, he thanked the girl. But he didn't notice the other party's hesitant look. He picked up a few books and stuffed them into his bag, turned around and walked out of the door. Huh, this stinky guy. It seems he really doesn't remember me. Wait until I go back and ask my mother to raise your rent. The pretty girl stamped her feet in shame, expressing her deep dissatisfaction with Wang Mingyang's actions. Not noticing anything strange about the pretty girl, Wang Mingyang's mind was filled with space, lines, 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions, and so on. S-level space cutting is undoubtedly an extremely powerful attack power. If he could completely extract it before the end of the world, he would be a great start. He had seen this ability in a 7th-level master before. With just a wave of his hand, a crescent-shaped space gap would pass in front of him. Everything it passes will be cut and swallowed. No steel blade can withstand it, and the end is extremely powerful. In the early stages of the apocalypse, this attack power can easily kill zombies, as long as the space blade is controlled well and does not cut the crystal core. The powerlessness in his previous life made Wang Mingyang salivate even more. Look around, find the subway entrance, and quickly run in. After a short wait, I got on the subway, found a corner to lean quietly, and continued reading with the book in my hand. There were so many people in the carriage, and most of them were scrolling through their phones. There were no other people holding books and reading like Wang Mingyang at all, which attracted people around him to look at him frequently. More than 20 minutes later, the subway finally arrived at the station. Wang Mingyang breathed a sigh of relief, closed his book, and walked out. Space cutting ability, 9 out of 10, reward reading value 100 points. Finally, after repeatedly pondering the mystery of dimensional space, I extracted a fragment again. It is only 1 step away from extracting the space cutting ability. But Wang Mingyang has a vague feeling that it may not be so easy for him to take this step tonight. While thinking about the contents of the book, I walked towards the rental house until I reached an urban village. The growling sound in his stomach became more and more frequent. Wang Mingyang ran to a night market stall, ordered a plate of fried rice, and grilled a few barbecue skewers. With the bright lights in the night market, Wang Mingyang opened the book non-stop, but this time he opened A Brief History of Time. This book by Mr. Hua has richer knowledge content. I have read Dimensional Space several times, but I always get stuck at the last link. Wang Mingyang simply changed his mind and started reading Hualao's A Brief History of Time, hoping to gain something. But this book has more than 100,000 words, and Wang Mingyang is already prepared to stay up late tonight. After all, there are only 14 hours left, so it would be good to extract one more power. While eating barbecue and fried rice, I read a book. At this moment, Wang Mingyang is regarded as a proper nerd in the eyes of others. After eating the fried rice, Wang Mingyang quickly paid and got up, grabbing the book and walking towards the rental house without stopping. A 5-story residential building soon appeared in front of us. There was a convenience store downstairs, and a woman with a peaceful face was sitting in the store. Seeing Wang Mingyang coming over, the woman smiled. "Mingyang, you came back so late." "Aunt Lu, I just came back from a business trip. Why don't you close the shop yet?" Wang Mingyang was still thinking about the space problem in his mind. He was stunned when he heard this, then raised his head and smiled. "It's only around 10 o'clock now. Let's have another meeting," Aunt Lu said with a smile on her face. Wang Mingyang thought about the doomsday coming tomorrow. If he couldn't get the pieces together tonight, he would probably have to squat in the house for several days. I simply walked into the convenience store, picked out a lot of packaged food and mineral water, bought 2 cigarettes, and spent all the little money I had in WeChat, leaving Aunt Lu with a few yuan less. "Mingyang, why did you buy so many things? Just tell Auntie what you want to eat. There's no need to buy so much to keep in the house." Aunt Lu frowned slightly and watched Wang Mingyang buy 5 items in a hurry. Something worth 600 yuan. I felt a little distressed. "It's okay, Aunt Lu. You can eat it at home anytime, so I don't need to bother you. What's the trouble? It's just a matter of walking up and down a few steps." "Well, Aunt Lu, I'll go up first. You can rest early." After paying and holding a bunch of things, Wang Mingyang said hello. "Okay, get some rest early." Aunt Lu shook her head and stopped insisting. Wang Mingyang turned around, opened the corridor door, and stepped up. Aunt Lu is the owner of this small residential building. The first floor is a shop, and the second to fourth floors are rented to nearby college students. I live on the 5th floor, and there is a small terrace on the roof. He is a kind person, the rent is moderate, and he has a good reputation among the college students nearby. Wang Mingyang has been living here since his internship in his senior year, but he usually leaves early and comes home late, so he doesn't have much interaction with his landlord, Aunt Lu. However, in Wang Mingyang's impression, Aunt Lu also had a daughter. He had lived here for nearly 2 years and had not seen her a few times. Within a week of the zombie outbreak in his last life, he never went downstairs, and he never met Aunt Lu again until his death. He thought he would either become a zombie or be buried in a corpse. Wang Mingyang returned to the 3rd floor with some sighs, took out the key, and opened the door. What he saw was a familiar small single room with 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. He put all the things he just bought in the corner, closed the door, and locked the small lock. Wang Mingyang solemnly placed a few books on the small desk against the wall, sat down, and took a deep breath to start tonight's reading journey. Opening A Brief History of Time, Wang Mingyang started reading from the previous chapter. Our current ideas about the motion of objects come from... At some point, a pretty girl with a high ponytail rode a pink electric scooter and parked in front of the convenience store. She skillfully turned off the engine, got off the car, took off her cute pink helmet, and shouted, "Mom," into the store. Aunt Lu looked up and saw the girl with a bright smile on her face. "Xiao Yuer, are you off work?" Xiao Yuer's name is Suyu. Her father is a policeman, but unfortunately he died heroically during an arrest operation. So Suyu has been dependent on his mother since he was a child, and the mother and daughter make a living by collecting rent and running a small convenience store. "Yes, Mom. Have you seen Brother Mingyang?" Suyu asked without looking back while pushing the battery car into the corridor. "Mingyang just came back for a while. Why did you suddenly ask about him?" Aunt Lu was a little confused. "Oh, I met him in the library in the afternoon, but this idiot didn't recognize me." Suyu pursed his cherry lips and glanced outside at a window on the 3rd floor. When he saw the light was bright, he returned to the convenience store. "Oh, no wonder I saw him coming back with a book in his arms. It turned out that he went to the library to borrow books." Aunt Lu nodded somewhat suddenly, stretched out her finger, and poked her daughter on the forehead. "You damn girl, how could you call me that?" Mingyang is usually busy with work and leaves early and comes home late. I haven't seen you many times. Isn't it normal that I didn't recognize you? Ouch, Mom. Don't poke me in the head. I'll become stupid. Suyu covered his forehead, stepped forward to hold Aunt Lu's arm, and said softly, "Aren't you stupid enough? I can't even look at you, and you're not that smart." Aunt Lu struggled for a moment with a look of disgust on her face, but her eyes were full of doting. "Mom, how can anyone say that about their own daughter?" "Yes, isn't it me?" "Huh, I won't tell you anymore. I'm going upstairs to wash up. I'm exhausted today, and I have to go to work tomorrow." Suyu shook Aunt Lu's arm reluctantly, pouted, turned around and ran upstairs with a flick of her ponytail. "Hey, slow down, don't fall." Aunt Lu couldn't help but shouted nervously when she saw Suyu turning around and running quickly. Suyu waved his hand without looking back and disappeared into the corridor. Aunt Lu smiled dumbly and shook her head. Her girl's fiery temper was probably inherited from her father. Regardless of Aunt Lu's size downstairs, Suyu ran upstairs and slowed down as he approached the third floor. When I walked to the third floor, I looked at the door to the right of the stairs. There was a faint light coming from the crack in the door. Suyu hesitated for a moment, but still refrained from knocking on the door. He pouted his lips, snorted, and turned to walk upstairs. After a while, the sound of rushing water came from the room on the fifth floor. Late at night, Wang Mingyang rubbed his temples and raised his head with a look of helplessness. Just now, the system prompt sounded, but the content made Wang Mingyang a little disappointed. Ding! It is detected that the host is reading A Brief History of Time for the first time, and the A-level ability Mustard Space Fragments are extracted +1. The Mustard Space ability, 1/8, and the reward reading value is 10,000 points. The reading value was completely beyond his expectation. It was 10,000 points for the first reading. It was not too nice. These reading values are enough for system upgrade. Mr. Hua's book is really awesome. The A-level Mustard Space ability was very useful in the last days, but now what he wanted more was the space-cutting fragments. Moreover, the Mustard Space is also fragmented. Even if he keeps extracting the Mustard Space fragments, he still needs to read it at least 8 times. During this period, you have to think and understand while reading, but when he thought that the space-cutting fragment was stuck at September 10th, the corner of his mouth twitched. He had read Dimensional Space more than 10 times. The last 2 times were even more fruitless. The reading value of A Brief History of Time is 10 times that of Dimensional Space. Thinking about that scene, Wang Mingyang could only feel tears flowing uncontrollably. Sighing, Wang Mingyang closed the book, stood up, took out a bottle of mineral water, and drank it down. From the corner of his eye, he glanced at 300 children's songs on the table, and suddenly an idea flashed in his mind. System, can I fuse powers now? Ding. The host has a total reading value of 11,901 points at this time, and basic fusion consumes 100 reading points. Fusion of basic abilities. Ding. Please choose the abilities you want to fuse with the host. Basic fusion can fuse up to 3 abilities at once. Carefully look through the superpowers in the bookshelf: Bubble Technique, Communication Technique, Underwater Breathing Technique, Bounce Technique, Spinning Technique, Freezing Technique, Turtle Shell Technique, Light Body Technique, and Illumination Technique. Firefly. There are 10 E-level powers in total. You don't need to think about it to know that the power of these powers is limited. After all, they are extracted from children's books. Wang Mingyang walked around the room, and after thinking for a while, he chose 3 abilities. System, choose to fuse Bubble Technique, Turtle Shell Technique, and Freezing Technique. Ding. 100 reading points are consumed, and the fusion begins. Ding. The fusion is successful and the D-level ability, Ice Armor, is obtained. The host's remaining reading value, 11,801 points. D-Class Supernatural Ice Armor? It looks good. The quality has actually been improved by 1 level. Wang Mingyang's eyes lit up. This name sounded good, and he quickly looked through the analysis of Ice Armor Technique. Ice Armor, D-level superpower, Ice System, releases a layer of sealed spherical frost armor, but the air inside is limited, and if it covers the whole body for a long time, there is a risk of suffocation. Holy shit. How can you suffocate yourself to death by using a superpower? Wang Mingyang cracked open. This damn ice armor technique. It actually has this weird function, which is not killing the ice armor by breaking it. Just suffocate yourself to death in the hockey puck? Wang Mingyang shouted. System, are you serious? Ding. The fusion of superpowers is completely random, and the fusion of the host is an E-level superpower, so some shortcomings are inevitable. The host is asked to use this ability with caution. Should I use it with caution? Tell me, how dare you use this kind of power? Ding. The host's knowledge is too shallow. Please trust the professionalism of the system and don't make a fuss. Wang Mingyang. All right. You are the system, and you are the biggest. You have the final say. Wang Mingyang was stupefied. Fortunately, the fusion was Zotza's superpower. He didn't feel distressed at all with the S-level space superpower in sight. But thinking about the use of superpowers, Wang Mingyang suddenly asked, System, how many superpowers can I use? In his previous life, he could obtain a superpower from 300 children's songs every time he advanced to a level. He could use a total of 5 superpowers until his death. After rebirth, he had the all-heaven reading system and could extract so many superpowers. If he could only use 5 superpowers, he would really study hard and choose a few powerful superpowers. Ding. The host can absorb and use all extracted abilities, but the abilities stored in the bookshelf cannot be used. Damn it. Hundreds or thousands of shit. The system is great. Please accept my knee. Wang Mingyang knelt down directly. This was like a pie the size of a planet falling from the sky. This sudden surprise made him stay on the spot for an instant. It was simply unbelievable. It's like a poor loser with only a few dollars in his wallet suddenly becomes the same as all the readers in front of his mobile phone. He bought a lottery ticket and actually won the jackpot. Not only that, because the jackpot has not been awarded in dozens of consecutive draws. The prize for this bet is directly in the billions. Reached the pinnacle of life in an instant. Such a surprise. I would like to ask all readers, do you want it? Or do you want it? Add bookshelf, click to update, write comments, and I guarantee that all readers will win the big prize tomorrow. Looking at the 7 powers on the bookshelf, Wang Mingyang's eyes lit up. Although this ice armor spell is very strange, it can be used without any support, and it does not occupy the skill bar. The system integrates the jumping technique and the light body technique. Wang Mingyang chose to continue the fusion. These 2 abilities are both primary abilities of the strengthening system. Let's see if there are any surprises. Ding. 100 reading points are consumed, and the fusion begins. The system prompt sounded as expected. Wang Mingyang rubbed his hands and kept pacing, always feeling a sense of anticipation for a lottery. Ding. The fusion is successful, and you get the E-level ability, Vertical Leap Technique. The host's remaining reading value, 11,701 points. Vertical Leap Technique, E-level ability, Strengthening System. The host's own jumping ability is improved. The jumping distance is 5 meters, but it cannot stop or turn in the middle. If there are obstacles during the jump, it may be killed. Goddamn, might get hit to death. Wang Mingyang looked at the power analysis, and when he saw the word, but, he had a bad feeling in his heart. Sure enough, it has to be you, the system. Gone. Complaints are complaints, but Wang Mingyang still wanted to continue to integrate the remaining powers. He rubbed his sore head and chose to continue. System, integrating lighting technique and firefly technique. Ding. The fusion is successful, and the E-level ability Fluorescence is obtained. The host's remaining reading value, 11,601 points. Fluorescence, E-level power, light system. Release a ball of firelight, illuminating a 10-meter radius around it, but the object illuminated by the firefly technique will continue to emit a faint light for a day, which may attract prying eyes. Gone. Wang Mingyang vomited. It was a good lighting spell. Although it didn't cause any harm, it could at least be used as a lamp. But, after a twist, this is a skill that seeks death. Cast a firefly spell at night. Good guy. Zombies and mutated creatures couldn't find you originally, but now it has built-in spotlight special effects. You think you can't die fast enough, right? This fusion function of the system instantly made Wang Mingyang doubt his life. Although these E-level powers are all rubbish, they are not harmful at all. But after such a fusion, my dear, is this a suicide power? System, I suspect you want to harm me. Wang Mingyang couldn't help complaining in his mind. Ding. Please don't doubt the professionalism of the system. The result of superpower fusion is not controlled by the system, but the host can invest reading value to increase the probability of success. Head-on probability? Tell me, what is the head-on probability of Tamiao? Ding. There is a chance of negative functions appearing in superpower fusion. Investing in reading value can increase the probability of positive functions and reduce the probability of negative functions. Is there still such a statement? Why didn't you say it before? Ding. The system functions need to be explored by the host by itself. Okay, I said this before, now tell me, how much reading value do you need to invest to eliminate the negative probability? Wang Mingyang was going crazy, but he had no choice but to continue asking. Ding. E-level power fusion requires an investment of 1,000 reading points. D-level superpower fusion requires an investment of 10,000 reading points. C-level superpower fusion requires an investment of 100,000 reading points. Wang Mingyang. Is it easy for me to earn some reading value? If this were SSS level superpower fusion, it would require tens of billions of reading points. Alright, SSS level abilities are hard to find. It is even more difficult to have 2 or more abilities of this quality at the same time. However, this kind of reading value consumption, destroy it. Just read me to death and let me drown in the ocean of books. It seems that Wang Mingyang is unable to pursue the path of superpower fusion. Even if Papa Ma comes, he can't afford this fusion function. I can't afford it. I can't afford it at all. Falling slumped on the bed, Wang Mingyang was desperate. The reading value increased so slowly, so much was consumed at every turn. Although the system is powerful, it is not free. Wanting to reach the top of life seems to be a little bit out of reach. Complaints are complaints. Wang Mingyang knows very well that the integration function of Zhutian reading system is not unpowerful. In the last life, Wang Mingyang was deeply persecuted by weak abilities, and he barely upgraded his abilities to the 5th level. However, the 5F level abilities themselves were too weak. Even if they were upgraded to the 5th level, they were completely unable to match the 5th level, the fighting power they deserve. But with this fusion function, it's different. No matter how rubbish the ability is, it may turn around. You just need to invest a lot of reading value, and the rest depends on your appearance. The ice armor technique may seem strange at first glance, but its protective power is certainly much better than that of the bubble technique and the turtle shell technique. From the literal meaning, the ability of this ice armor technique is a combination of 3 powers, regardless of the negative effects. If so, overall it's pretty good. The only skills left in his hand are spinning technique, underwater breathing technique, and messaging technique. Wang Mingyang doesn't want to continue fusion for the time being. There is no need. These 3 powers are not attack or defense powers. It only has some auxiliary effects, which means little to him now. System, if I upgrade it to you now, how long will it take to complete it? Ding. The host's reading value is enough for the first stage of upgrade, but the whole process takes 1 hour, and during this hour, the host will not gain any reading value or ability by reading books. Oh. Well, Wang Mingyang thought about it and decided not to upgrade the system for the time being. He urgently needed to obtain the power of space cutting. If not, he would have to spend time extracting other powers from other books, otherwise the end would come tomorrow. After that, his combat effectiveness will be slightly insufficient. The system will not be upgraded for the time being. We will discuss it at noon tomorrow. After taking a short break, Wang Mingyang continued to return to his desk and read A Brief History of Time. Ding. It is detected that the host is reading A Brief History of Time for the first time. Extracting A-level ability, Mustard Space, Fragments +1. S-level ability, Time Standstill, Fragments +1. Mustard Space ability, 2/8. Time Standstill power, 1/20. Reward reading value 1,000 points. Finally, when he finished reading it for the second time, Wang Mingyang suddenly discovered that the system had actually extracted a fragment of the time standstill ability, which made him ecstatic. This is the second S-level ability readout. Although this ability requires 20 fragments to complete, but this is a time-based ability. Space is king and time is supreme. I didn't expect that space and time powers could be extracted from a book at the same time. Although it is just fragments, but the future is promising. Wang Mingyang had already imagined that with a wave of his hand, the whole world stood still, and he was the only one walking in the world like a god. Goose, goose, goose. A smile bloomed on his face, and he couldn't stop laughing. But after a while, Wang Mingyang calmed down. The time ability is very powerful, but the time and energy required to complete it at this moment is huge. It will definitely not be possible to complete this feat before the end of the world. Moreover, through reading A Brief History of Time twice, Wang Mingyang's understanding of space has deepened. He decided to go back and continue studying dimensional space. Maybe he will gain something. More than an hour later, the long-awaited notification sounded in Wang Mingyang's mind. Ding! It is detected that the host is familiar with dimensional space. In the S-level ability, space-cutting fragments are extracted +1. Space-cutting ability, 10/10. Reward the host with 100 reading points. Finally collected 10 pieces. It's not easy. Ding! It has been detected that the fragments of the S-level ability, space-cutting, are sufficient and can be synthesized. Can the host synthesize it? Then you still need to ask? It must be synthesized. Ding! The synthesis is successful, and the S-level ability, space-cutting, is obtained, which consumes 1,000 reading points. The host's current reading value, 11,701 points. May I ask if the host absorbs this ability? Absorb? Wang Mingyang couldn't wait to experience this long-famous power and decisively chose to absorb it. As for the 1,000 reading points required for synthesis, he was not considering it at all. As the command was given, an inexplicable feeling emerged from his brain. In just a few seconds, Wang Mingyang felt that his whole body was as clear and refreshing as an enlightenment, and the fatigue and sleepiness of studying hard all night were swept away. The originally thin body seemed to have been replenished with energy, and it became visibly fuller, and the whole body became taller and stronger. Then the method of using the space-cutting ability came to his mind. Wang Mingyang's heart palpitated, and he stretched out his hand and waved lightly outside the window. I saw a 30-centimeter-long black arc shooting out from my fingertips, as if an invisible blade passed through the lightbox sign on the roof of another house 10 meters away and disappeared into the air. The lightbox sign slowly cracked after a while, and the upper part fell aside. The fracture was as smooth as a mirror. Hiss! The power is a bit scary. This is the elementary level, not even the first level. Wang Mingyang looked at the lightbox card broken in half in the distance, looked down at his palm, and murmured to himself. The power of a superpower is one aspect of its quality when awakened. Another key factor is the owner's ability to develop the superpower. Superpowers will continue to evolve and become more powerful as the awakened person's strength increases. This is also the reason why some awakened people with extraordinary talents in the last days will eventually lose to awakened people with lower awakening quality. Feeling the energy in his body, he estimated that he could release 8 of these powerful space-cutting blades at this moment. The number was smaller, but the power was astonishing. Even if you are facing a group of zombies, as long as the angle is right and the shot is cut through the space, the entire line of zombies within 10 meters will be cut in half. Moreover, when the superpower is awakened, his body will be strengthened. His physical strength at this moment is about twice that of an ordinary person. In the previous life, when he awakened the F-level superpower, the physical strengthening he received was minimal. Now, as long as he has a good weapon in his hand and the experience of surviving for 5 years in his previous life and fighting zombies and mutated creatures, Wang Mingyang can live well. Feeling a strong sense of hunger, Wang Mingyang quickly grabbed the food piled in the corner and ate it in big mouthfuls. It wasn't until I gnawed 10 packages of pig's trotters, 5 chicken legs, and 2 packages of instant noodles that I finally regained my composure. Awakening of supernatural powers will strengthen the body, but it will also consume a lot of energy and requires timely replenishment of food. I looked at the time and saw that it was already 5 o'clock in the morning. In 7 hours, the end would come. Thinking of this, Wang Mingyang couldn't help but look at the other books on the table, with a hint of expectation in his eyes. He quickly returned to the table. There were still 7 hours left. There were still many things he could do, and he might even be able to extract a few powerful abilities. We already have the means of attack, so it would be best to add a defensive capability, so that we can basically push through in the early stages of the apocalypse. Even if you encounter powerful zombies that mutate in the early stage, you can easily deal with them. Thinking of this, Wang Mingyang's eyes passed through books related to flames and lightning, and landed on the third, Fundamentals of Metal Science. After calming down, he began to read the book. But just by seeing the dense catalog, Wang Mingyang knew that most of the remaining time would be spent on this book. Time passed, the sun slowly rose, and the dazzling sunlight shone on the desk, but it still could not stop Wang Mingyang from reading attentively. Ding! It is detected that the host is familiar with Fundamentals of Metal Science. In the fragments of the A-level ability Metal Control are extracted +1, and the Metal Control ability is 7/8. Bonus reading value, 80 points. After several hours of continuous study, Wang Mingyang was only one fragment away from obtaining the A-level Metal Control ability. And the reading value he has at this moment, 13,061 points. Looking up and stretching, Wang Mingyang turned his head and glanced out the window. It was already 10:15 on May 26, 2035. Less than 2 hours until the end of the world. He found 2 packs of pig's trotters, gnawed them, and opened Fundamentals of Metal Science again. Wang Mingyang thought about the knowledge in his mind and read it 7 times in a row. Although he still had many questions, he had a feeling in the dark that you need to read it carefully again and answer some questions in your mind before you can extract the last fragment of the superpower. Another hour passed, and the system prompt sounded as expected. Ding! It is detected that the host is familiar with Fundamentals of Metal Science. In the fragments of the A-level ability Metal Control are extracted +1, and the Metal Control ability is 8/8. Bonus reading value, 80 points. System, Synthetic Metal Control. Ding! The synthesis is successful. Obtain the A-level ability Metal Control, which consumes 1,000 reading points. The host's current reading value, 12,141 points. May I ask if the host absorbs this ability? Absorb. After giving the command readily, a familiar feeling came over, and the whole body was baptized again, and the fatigue of studying books for several hours was gone. Wang Mingyang stretched out his palm, and his eyes drifted towards the metal knife in the pen holder on the desk. He raised his palm lightly, and the knife slowly floated up. The metal knife floated in front of him, and as Wang Mingyang's thoughts began to slowly twist and deform, it finally turned into a pool of silver liquid and gathered in the palm of his hand, and the plastic knife handle fell off. The brain controlled the continuous change of the silver liquid, and finally condensed into a sharp cone. Wang Mingyang's eyes flashed, and he looked at a target hanging on the wall. Whoosh! The silver tip in the palm of the hand turned into a flash of silver light and penetrated deeply into the red heart of the target. The pointed cone penetrated directly through the target and penetrated into the thick wall. With a thought in Wang Mingyang's mind, the pointed cone turned into silver liquid and slowly flowed out from the red heart of the target, gathering into a small ball in his palm again. Very strong. Very strong. The power of this blow is comparable to bullets, which means that Wang Mingyang only needs to prepare a few small metal balls to have a pistol with unlimited bullets. After this whole set of operations, the energy consumption in his body was minimal. Although Metal Control is only a level, Wang Mingyang will not underestimate this ability at all. Space cutting is very powerful, but judging from his experience, in the early days of the end of the world, Metal Control is definitely more cost-effective. Stretching out the other hand, a black arc appeared in the palm, and silver balls floated in the air on the left and right. Wang Mingyang realized that space cutting and Metal Control consume the same energy, and he can control this energy at the same time and release different abilities, which more than doubles his combat effectiveness in an instant. After absorbing the supernatural power twice, the energy in his body at this moment is more than 10 times that of when he awakened in his previous life. At the level of the previous life, I'm afraid he wouldn't even be able to fire a single spatial cut. Before the end of the world came, Wang Mingyang already had 2 major powers, and there were also S-level time powers waiting for him to extract and synthesize them. At this time, he was completely at the forefront of the entire blue star, leaving those behind him several streets away. This wave, I have the advantage. Putting away his powers, Wang Mingyang ate a bunch of the food he had hoarded again. Wang Mingyang rewarded himself with a hot bath. He had never experienced such a refreshing feeling in the 5 years of the apocalypse, and he couldn't help but moan. After changing out of his already sour clothes, Wang Mingyang packed some food and water into his backpack and stuffed a few books into it. Carrying a heavy backpack, after absorbing 2 supernatural powers, his body has been strengthened 3 times that of an ordinary person. The backpack, weighing more than 10 kilograms, is as light as a feather to him. I glanced at my phone and saw that the time came to 11:10 on May 26, 2035. In 50 minutes, the end will come, but he no longer wants to wait at home. Wang Mingyang, who possesses 2 major powers, is preparing to go to the provincial library in the city center. The system is ready to be upgraded. When the time comes, he can directly scan the entire library and copy all the books to the system. No matter where he goes, he can access books at any time and obtain powers to strengthen himself. System, start upgrading. While opening the security door, Wang Mingyang calmly gave instructions in his mind. Ding! 10,000 reading points are consumed, and the system starts to upgrade. The host's current reading value, 2,141 points. Quickly walking downstairs, Wang Mingyang thought about the route in his memory. It took about half an hour to take the subway from the rental house to the provincial library. He still has time and can do other things. Mingyang, do you have to go on a business trip on your day off? In the convenience store, Aunt Lu was sitting behind the counter as usual. When she saw Wang Mingyang coming out of the corridor with a bag on his back, she greeted him with confusion. Aunt Lu, I'm going to the city. Wang Mingyang responded with a smile. Aunt Lu's familiar face made him feel a little sad. The apocalypse has come, and most humans have turned into unconscious zombies. The Aunt Lu in front of me has never been seen again by Wang Mingyang in her previous life. He only remembered that 7 days after the end of the world. He went downstairs after awakening the supernatural bubble technique. He only saw the door of the convenience store wide open and a mess inside. He didn't know whether he had turned into a zombie or been eaten. Oh, go ahead. Xiao Yuer asked about you last night. Aunt Lu said with a smile on her face and a hint of meaning in her eyes. Xiao Yuer. Wang Mingyang was stunned. He seemed to have heard this name from Aunt Lu. Well, you have met my daughter Suyu a few times. She is already a senior and is going out for an internship during this period. Ah. A vague figure appeared in Wang Mingyang's mind, and he scratched his head and said, I don't quite remember her appearance. She started internship so soon? Yes. Come back early in the evening and have dinner together when you have time. Aunt Lu nodded, not caring that Wang Mingyang had forgotten her daughter. Okay. Wang Mingyang could only nod. At this time, it was impossible for him to tell Aunt Lu that he might not be able to eat this meal. Aunt Lu was usually very kind to him. Even if he sometimes defaulted on the rent, she never urged him. Aunt Lu, before 12 noon, you'd better close the store for a while and rest inside. If there is any movement outside, don't come out. Wang Mingyang said to Aunt Lu, his expression extremely serious. Why are they closed? Business is good when there are many people at noon. Aunt Lu was puzzled. Aunt Lu, just listen to me and just close the door for an hour. You will know after 12 o'clock. Wang Mingyang said solemnly. Oh, you kid. Okay. Aunt Lu will listen to you, and just close the door to cook when she gets hungry. Aunt Lu smiled gently, with a hint of helplessness on her face. Wang Mingyang usually leaves early and comes home late, and rarely talks. But she knows that this child is an orphan. He has been working hard in college and is a strong and kind boy. Otherwise, his daughter obviously has some interest in him, and Aunt Lu has never objected. Well, Aunt Lu, I'm leaving first. See you when we have a chance. Wang Mingyang turned around in relief and waved. He has done the kind reminder he can, and the rest can only be left to Aunt Lu's own good fortune. Wang Mingyang walked quickly to the subway station. There were only more than 40 minutes left before the end of the world. Skillfully scan the code and enter the station. Just as the Line 2 subway arrived, I quickly boarded the subway. Wang Mingyang found a seat and sat down. It would take more than 20 minutes before the subway arrived near the provincial library. He needed to use this time to think about his next plan. He now possesses 2 major powers and is extremely lethal. The population in the city center is concentrated, and there is a sea of people at noon, so it is easy for corpses to break out. However, the energy in the body is limited and cannot completely guarantee one's own safety. He also needs to prepare some weapons. Metal control can easily condense weapons. Since we still have some time, it would be nice to save a little energy. Moreover, Wang Mingyang currently has limited control, and the weapons he creates may not be very sharp and tough. In my memory, there seems to be an ancient weapon shop near the provincial library, which sells various swords and knives. Of course, they are all display weapons without sharp edges. However, for him who has the ability to control metal, opening a front is just a casual matter. Take advantage of this time to find a good weapon, and you can also use metal powers to study its structure. It also helps with the development of his abilities. The subway arrived at the station on time. Wang Mingyang grabbed his backpack and ran out quickly, attracting side glances from the slow-moving crowd around him. What is this person doing? Is he in a hurry to reincarnate? Who says it's not the case? You've already gotten off the car, and you're not jockeying for position, yet you're still running so fast. Must be a wage earner. Several little girls wearing JK and suspender skirts felt a gust of wind blowing around them, and they couldn't help but murmur and laugh. Wang Mingyang didn't look back, strode up the stairs, and disappeared after a few steps, ignoring the ridicule of these people. In 10 minutes, they will know what social beatings mean. Beep, beep, beep. The red light at the gate flashed, and there were several screams. Wang Mingyang looked confused, suddenly realized, and looked at the balance on his mobile phone. 0.58. Fuck. I forgot that I spent all my money yesterday. A chubby girl behind him glanced at him with disdain. She swiped her phone on the gate, the green traffic light turned on, and the 2 gates opened. The girl squeezed Wang Mingyang and walked forward on her own. Wang Mingyang smiled nonchalantly, took a few steps back to let the gate open, lowered his head and fiddled with his phone, and quickly opened all the white slips and payouts inside, and then scanned the QR code to exit the station. Quickly rushing out of the subway station, Wang Mingyang identified the direction and ran straight to the shopping mall not far from the subway entrance. The weapons store is located in a street shop near the mall. Curious, he went in once before and met a prop person from the production crew purchasing sample models. The Condor Weapon Shop. Huge plaque, eye-catching storefront. Wang Mingyang's eyes lit up and he rushed in. The dazzling array of weapon display cabinets dazzled him instantly. The waiter inside was receiving 2 middle-aged men and was startled by Wang Mingyang, who rushed in quickly. Hello, do you need anything? We have a complete range of long and short weapons here, with reliable quality and various styles, all made by masters. Another graceful waitress wearing a hanfu immediately came forward, bowed slightly with a professional smile, and asked softly, I need a straight knife or a horizontal knife. The style doesn't matter, the quality must be tough enough. Wang Mingyang said quickly. The weapons displayed in this store are basically models, serving more for film crews or enthusiasts. The crew used all props, with soft texture and various styles. The waitress understood immediately upon hearing this that this handsome guy must be an enthusiast, and what he needs is a real weapon that has not yet been opened. Hello, please come with me. The waiter smiled and stretched out his hand to signal, taking the lead to walk inside. The lights inside are bright, and there are many unsharp swords hanging on the walls. Wang Mingyang walked straight to the knife wall and scanned the knives on the wall. These are all unbladed weapons, including Tangheng Dao, Ming Dynasty Yinling Dao, Qing Dynasty Huansho Dao, Japanese Tachi. The young lady introduced the knives on the wall with a smile on her face. Gentle. Find me the best horizontal knife in your shop. Wang Mingyang glanced around and chose the Tangheng Dao. This weapon was very popular in the last days and was very easy to use. Okay, what's your budget? The young lady nodded and asked a little closer. Get me the best. Money is not an issue. Wang Mingyang waved his hand. Well, wait a minute. The young lady glanced at Wang Mingyang's clothes vaguely, then turned and walked towards the warehouse. He was all dressed up, and he didn't know where he got the tone to say that. After a while, he looked at him and slapped him in the face. After a while, the young lady came back holding a beautiful wooden box. Putting the wooden box on the coffee table in the rest area, the lady slowly opened it, revealing a simple and elegant Tang Hungdao. The scabbard was black, simple and clear, and had no unnecessary decoration. The blade of the Hungdao is straight and upright. It has both the king style of a sword and the overlord style of a sword. This Tang Hungdao was made by Master Wu Ming. It is forged from extremely strong steel and has been tempered for thousands of times. Wang Mingyang was too lazy to listen to the waiter's introduction. He reached out and grabbed the horizontal knife, grabbed the handle, and pulled it out. The 80 centimeters long blade is bright and shiny. I tried swinging it, and it felt relatively smooth. Wang Mingyang also used the metal control to sense the blade. The structure inside was fine, and it had indeed been tempered and tough enough. He has also used several Tang knives in the past 5 years, but none of them can reach this level of strength. Nodding with satisfaction, Wang Mingyang put the sword back into its sheath and asked calmly, "How much does this cost?" The waiter's mouth twitched slightly, but she still responded with a professional smile. "This knife is called Emoing, and the total price is 100,000. Okay, where can I pay?" Wang Mingyang nodded without hesitation. His Aityao and payroll limit was 200,000, which was completely enough. Anyway, after the end of the world, no one will chase him to pay back the money, and it will not be spent until it is in vain. The young lady seemed to have no idea that Wang Mingyang really wanted to buy it and could afford it, so she was not slapped in the face at all. Instead, her face seemed to hurt, and her cheeks began to turn slightly red. "Please go this way." The young lady is a professional. After being stunned for a while, she immediately adjusted herself and started to lead the way beside Wang Mingyang while holding the wooden box. The smile on her face became much more sincere. Wang Mingyang followed the young lady back to the lobby and scanned the QR code to pay at the cashier. Ding! 100,000 yuan has been received. Welcome next time. Seeing Wang Mingyang actually paying, the smile on the waitress's face became brighter and brighter. She bowed and handed over the wooden box containing Emoing, thinking to leave her contact information so that she could develop and sell more knives in the future. "Sir, would you like to keep one?" Wang Mingyang grabbed the wooden box, slung it over his shoulder, and turned away neatly. The waitress suddenly froze in place, and the smile on her face began to distort. At 11:53 on May 26, 2035, there are only a few minutes left before the end of the world. I don't have time to talk to you here, and do I have any contact information? When the apocalypse comes and the communication network is cut off, leave a hammer behind. Will I go look for you in the pile of corpses then? A real-life version of I have a date with a zombie? Look at which bones are related to you? Nothing. Go out onto the street and walk straight towards the library. Wang Mingyang looked up at the sky as he walked. A red shadow clearly appeared around the dazzling sun. In his previous life, Wang Mingyang was sleeping. Later, he heard that at 12 noon, the sun was shrouded in blood shadow, and the sunlight turned into bloodlight, illuminating the entire blue star. Even if you hide underground, you will be penetrated by the blood light. It seems that the entire blue star is penetrated by the blood light of the sun. What follows is the outbreak of zombies, biological mutations, and the beginning of the apocalypse. Now he squinted and saw a red shadow appearing around the sun. Wang Mingyang estimated that at 12 o'clock sharp, the blood light would arrive as promised. Carrying a backpack full of supplies and a long wooden box, Wang Mingyang quickly ran into the provincial library. "Hello, welcome. How can I help you?" Suyu bowed slightly without raising her head as usual. When she raised her head with a smile, she realized that the person in front of her was Wang Mingyang again. "Brother Mingyang, why is it you again?" Suyu said softly. She realized that Wang Mingyang really didn't remember her, so she simply spoke directly. "Oh, who are you?" Wang Mingyang frowned slightly, unable to remember who this familiar and pretty girl was. Suyu rolled her eyes at him and said coquettishly, "I'm Xiao Yu or Suyu. If you keep saying you don't know me, I won't ask my mother to raise your rent when I go back. Ah, it's you. I haven't seen you for a long time. Are you doing an internship here? Wang Mingyang suddenly realized that she was Suyu. No wonder she always felt familiar. After a closer look, she looked somewhat similar to Aunt Lu. Yes. Are you here to borrow books again? Didn't you just borrow a few books yesterday? Suyu tilted his head, looking confused. Wang Mingyang looked around and saw the reading area in the corner. As he walked towards the corner, he said calmly, I came to read other books. Oh, then, I'll get you a glass of water later. Suyu was a little disappointed, but then took the initiative. Wang Mingyang waved his hand without looking back, walked to the table, and put down his backpack and wooden box. Suyu, is he your friend? The handsome young man at the counter asked in a low voice. Yes. We live in the same building. Suyu was a little stunned, then smiled again. So familiar. What does he do? The handsome young man frowned slightly and continued to talk. It seems to be for business. I don't know the details. Senior Li Qing. I'll get him a glass of water. Suyu smiled, ignored Li Qing's entanglement, turned around, poured a glass of water, and walked towards Wang Mingyang holding the paper cup in both hands. Wang Mingyang estimated the time and looked out the window at the street. There were very few people on the first floor of the library, but the street outside the window is full of people. Across the street is the famous Peking pedestrian street in Spring City. Weekends are when there are many people. A pair of smooth and delicate long legs appeared beside him. Wang Mingyang's heart moved slightly when he saw the fair skin from the corner of his eyes. Looking up, I saw Suyu, wearing a sky-blue pleated skirt and a white t-shirt, supporting two towering mountain peaks, still wearing a high ponytail and a sweet smile on his face, standing happily with a paper cup in his hand. Before, Brother Mingyang, give you some water? Looking at Suyu's youthful smile, Wang Mingyang felt a sense of loss in his heart. In the last 5 years of the apocalypse, it is impossible to see such a smile. Everyone is desperately struggling to survive. A bright girl like Suyu would die from the darkness of human nature if she didn't die in the mouth of a zombie. Thank you, Suyu. If you have nothing to do, please sit with me for a few minutes. Wang Mingyang reached out and took the paper cup, took a sip, and said softly, Suyu didn't expect Wang Mingyang to ask her to sit with him for a few minutes. Turning his head and looking at the counter, Suyu saw that there were no customers to receive there at the moment. Suyu then pulled out the chair, stretched out his hand to touch his pleated skirt to his hips, and sat down. Brother Mingyang, have you been busy lately? I haven't seen you much. Suyu leaned slightly and said softly with his two cute eyes open. Sure. Don't talk, look outside. Wang Mingyang did not answer, but pointed out the window, opened the ink shadow wooden box, and grabbed it out. Although Suyu was confused, he looked outside obediently. The big clock on the archway of the pedestrian street in the distance, the second hand is beating, and the clock is slowly pointing to 12 o'clock at noon. Clang! As the bell rang, the originally dazzling sun suddenly burst into bloody light. The whole world turned blood red at this moment, whether indoors or outdoors, or even at the bottom of the dark deep sea. They were all illuminated by this bloody light. All the creatures in the entire blue star were sluggish at this moment, except Wang Mingyang, who was holding a horizontal knife. His heart was filled with horror. He had never seen this scene in his previous life. At this moment, he discovered that following the bloody light, it seemed that his line of sight could penetrate the wall and reach the blood-red sun in the middle of the sky. Ding! System upgrade completed. New functions. Wang Mingyang had no time to pay attention to the system prompts. The moment his eyes touched the bloody sun, several vague murmurs suddenly sounded in his mind. The voice was elusive and incomprehensible. With his shallow knowledge of the language, he couldn't figure out what it meant. But those few murmurs remained in his mind as clearly as an imprint. The next moment, the bloody sun suddenly trembled, and a golden light bloomed from the edge. The sun seemed to be separated from the middle, forming two discs, one white and one red. The white sun is still dazzling, but it contains a hint of holy gold. The red sun is bright red and contains inexplicable weirdness. Wang Mingyang looked at the scene in the past 2 days through the bloodlight, and his heart was filled with waves. In the last life, the blood and sun did not appear at the same time. Not to mention that he had not seen this scene with his own eyes, and even later he had never heard of such a scene from other survivors. Could it be that my rebirth triggered the butterfly effect and produced unpredictable changes? Wang Mingyang murmured in a low voice. If having the system makes him 100 times more confident, then the predictive ability brought about by rebirth is the foundation of his confidence. But at this moment, something seemed to have changed, causing his prediction to deviate. The blood filled the sky, and it seemed that only a second had passed. The next moment, the blood disappeared, and the sun shone on the earth again. However, something has been faintly changed. On the street, there were friends chatting and laughing one moment, couples chatting with each other the next, tender mothers and children. Suddenly, he became ferocious-looking, drooling and threw himself at the people closest to him. There was a commotion everywhere, and people fled. In just a few minutes, the entire lively street was filled with mourners. There are zombies everywhere that are eating their flesh crazily, and people are dying in mourning, or dragging their bloody remains to stand up and join the new zombies in the predatory army. The whole street was full of wailing, cries for help, explosions, traffic was paralyzed, and zombies were everywhere killing humans. In Spring City at this moment, there are rats in the gutter, stray cats and dogs on the street, and animals in the zoo. One by one, they began to grow huge. Their eyes turned red, and their bloodthirsty instincts turned on. They rushed onto the streets and began to prey on humans or zombies. Before the strange and unpredictable apocalypse, the insignificance of human beings seemed so tragic. At the moment when the end came, Wang Mingyang recovered from the bloody light, slowly pulled out the horizontal knife in his hand, and wiped it on the blade with his left hand. A sharp edge slowly appeared as the left hand moved, and the silver liquid surged at the originally dull blade, becoming extremely sharp. Using the power of metal control to open the blade, Wang Mingyang lightly danced the sword horizontally, looking at the beautiful little fish in front of him inexplicably. Su Yu's eyes widened, his cherry mouth opened wide, and he covered his mouth with one hand. The hell scene on the street outside the window made her tremble all over, but surprisingly she didn't make any sound. Zombies have begun to appear in the hall, biting other living people. Several people also ran down the stairs, followed by more than a dozen zombies, who rolled down the stairs. Su Yu, run quickly. These people are crazy. Li Qing was lucky enough not to turn into a zombie. He ran towards Su Yu regardless of the danger, grabbed her hand, and tried to run out. Su Yu was pulled to stagger, but he suddenly struggled to break away from Li Qing's big hand and turned to look at Wang Mingyang, who was holding a horizontal knife at the side. Wang Mingyang glanced at Su Yu in surprise. This girl didn't turn into a zombie. She seemed to be a lucky person. Li Qing's shouting attracted the attention of the zombies in the hall, and several zombies rushed towards him with roars. Wang Mingyang did not hesitate, stepped forward, slashed with the sword in his hand, and several heads rolled to the ground. As the blood sprayed, Li Qing screamed, "You mad man! You actually killed someone. Human? Can this still be called a human?" Wang Mingyang turned around calmly, his eyes cold. Well? Li Qing was so frightened by this sight that he trembled all over. He then wanted to grab Su Yu and run away. Su Yu, hurry up and stay away from this madman. Su Yu reflexively ducked back and shook his head desperately, his face pale but still determined. Fuck, I don't care about you anymore. Seeing that Su Yu was indifferent, Li Qing ignored Su Yu in desperation. He cursed angrily, turned around and ran out of the library. There are zombies everywhere on the road, but there are relatively few people here in front of the library, and the crowds are concentrated in the business district opposite. Li Qing chose to run out of the hall at this time, probably thinking that there were just zombies nearby, and thought that he would be safe if he stayed away as soon as possible. Obviously, he thinks a little too much. Why don't you leave? Wang Mingyang shook off the blood on the horizontal knife, not caring that the other zombies in the hall were still biting people. This corner seems to be otherworldly at the moment. I don't know, but I think following you, Brother Mingyang, is the best choice. Su Yu shook his head, with fear on his face and trembling all over, but his feet remained firm. Oh, why do you say that? Wang Mingyang seemed to be a little interested. He had not had much contact with this girl before. Unexpectedly, she was able to remain calm and choose the correct answer in this situation. Brother Mingyang, you just asked me to sit down and look outside. You seem to know what would happen, so I think no matter what happens, staying with you should be the best choice. So you didn't hesitate at all and quickly said what he was thinking. Well, just follow me first. Don't leave the 3-meter radius around me. Wang Mingyang glanced at her in surprise and nodded. The moment she knew she was Xiao Yuer Suyu. He just considered taking action to save her life within his ability for Aunt Lu's sake. If the superpower can be awakened in a short time, it is not impossible to keep it for use. In the last days, fighting alone is not a long-term solution. Although he has the Zhutian reading system and his strength will become stronger and stronger, there is always a process. It is still possible to add a little more manpower appropriately to form a combat team. It's just that it's so hard to meet people who are trustworthy. Walking leisurely in the hall, Wang Mingyang casually waved Imo in to kill a few zombies. There were still zombies running down the stairs, looking at the small group of corpses that were almost lined up in a line. Wang Mingyang flicked his fingers, and a black arc shot out from his fingertips, straight across the dozen zombies in front of him. Before the body fell to the ground, Wang Mingyang gently raised his palm again, and the metals around him with a radius of 5 meters turned into liquid and gathered together. Under his control, it condensed into 9 sharp steel needles floating around the body. Suyu stared at the scene in front of her in stunned silence. She could not imagine the handsome young man in front of her. He is actually like a superhero hidden in the crowd, possessing such magical abilities. With the crazy shooting of steel needles, the heads of zombies in the hall were accurately pierced, and the corridors were covered with corpses. Elemental powers mainly consume mental power and energy, but do not consume much physical strength. At this time, there is no need to engage in close combat. It's better to be cautious. Zombies also began to appear at the door of the library at this moment, and several people with blood on their bodies ran in, followed by more than a dozen zombies. When several people rushed into the library, Wang Mingyang waved gently at the door. The metal handle on the glass door slammed the door shut, and the metal shelf on the side turned into liquid and floated over, wrapping the door lock and quickly solidifying, locking the door tightly. The gate blocked a dozen or so zombies that were lagging behind, but there were still 4 or 5 that rushed in following the few people. But this door probably won't be able to block it for long. The zombies that had just ran in the hall were chasing several men and women crazily. These people were running around, throwing the tables, chairs, and benches in the hall back, not daring to hold them in their hands to smash zombies. Wang Mingyang frowned and killed the 4 or 5 zombies casually. Then he motioned for Suyu to follow him and walked towards the stairs, preparing to go to the second floor to clean out the zombies. Brother Mingyang, they? Suyu glanced at the hall, with fear and intolerance in his eyes. Those survivors scratched by zombies were covered in blood. There are more or less open wounds on the body. They were injured by zombies and are hopeless. I have no obligation to help them. If you want to help, go ahead and do it yourself. Wang Mingyang didn't look back and calmly stepped over the blood of corpses on the ground and stepped onto the steps. Suyu paused when he heard this, then quickly took a few steps forward. His slightly trembling hands gently held the corner of Wang Mingyang's clothes, but he said no more. There were also several people wailing in the hall. Suyu's delicate body trembled slightly when he heard this, but he did not dare to leave Wang Mingyang at all. After experiencing the darkness of the apocalypse for 5 years, Wang Mingyang's heart has already become as tough as iron. Although his strength is low but he possesses 5 kinds of rubbish superpowers, he has endured countless ridicules, spurns, and bullying. He could easily save Suyu, but he couldn't endure her overestimation of her abilities. Not to mention that those people are already hopeless, and they will mutate into zombies in a few minutes. If Suyu himself has the ability to save others, as long as it does not affect him, then Wang Mingyang will not have any objection. But it has to be the Holy Mother's heart, and morality kidnaps others to do things. Sorry, he will kill the person who has this idea first. If Suyu didn't listen to the advice just now, Wang Mingyang would definitely leave her behind without hesitation. Although it is a pity, it is an iron rule to kill the Holy Mother first in the last days. If Our Lady is on the enemy's side, that's a different matter. The enemy's Holy Mother must be protected, and the Trisolarans all know this. Regardless of the various miserable howls coming from upstairs and downstairs, Wang Mingyang led Su Yu up to the second floor. After a burst of shooting, corpses were everywhere. There were collapsed bookshelves everywhere, and some books were stained with blood. The system has been upgraded, but Wang Mingyang hasn't had time to see the new features yet. I found a seat by the window and sat down, staring at the stairs while communicating with the system in my mind. System, is it ready to scan? Ding. The Zhutian reading system has been upgraded to the first stage, with new book scanning and copying functions, new power decomposition functions, and new knowledge summary functions. I know about scanning and copying. Please explain these two functions. With a flick of his finger, several steel needles shot out, shooting through the zombies rushing down from the third floor. Ding. Power decomposition function. The host can decompose unnecessary powers and obtain corresponding reading values. When you decompose primary abilities, you can get 100 reading points, and when you decompose first-level abilities, you can get 1,000 reading points. Superpowers after decomposition cannot be obtained again in the same book. Knowledge summary function. After the knowledge acquired by the host through reading has reached a certain level, it will be organized into volumes through the system and automatically placed in the bookshelf, classified and organized, for the host to browse at any time. Oh, these two functions are very good. Ability without absorption or fusion value can be completely decomposed into reading value. Although the knowledge summary function is not very useful, it can organize the knowledge learned into a book. After systematization, it is easier to deepen understanding, and it is easier to extract abilities by reading the book again. That's great. Wang Mingyang is very satisfied with these two functions. One solves part of the problem of obtaining reading value in a disguised way, and the other increases the difficulty of obtaining abilities in a disguised way. In short, they are both good things for him. System, start scanning books. Ding. The system scanning range is 5 meters around the host body. Start scanning. 5 meters. The range is not small, but not large either. Originally, Wang Mingyang thought that this function could directly sweep a building, but it seems that he thought too much. But that's okay. It's just a matter of walking a few more steps. Wang Mingyang stood up and started walking slowly along the bookshelf. Su Yu, who was following him, was a little confused, but he didn't dare to ask more questions. He could only follow Wang Mingyang to measure the library step by step. Ding. Scan the books, Principles of Linguistics, History of English Teaching. Ding. Scan the books, Common Language, International Language Learning. Ding. Scan books. Hey, the system is huge. Now that it has been upgraded, this ding is really a bit of a headache. Can it be optimized? Ding. At the request of the host, we will start optimizing the default settings. Ding. Cancel the voice prompt ding. If the host needs it, you can turn it on again. Wow. Wang Mingyang couldn't help but say in surprise, which caused Su Yu to look sideways for a while, with question marks all over his head. He had no idea what the big brother was surprised about. Finally, he no longer had to endure the brainwashing sound of ding. Wang Mingyang instantly felt that his mind was much clearer. It took more than 30 minutes to walk through the entire second floor and scan and copy all the books into the library. Wang Mingyang turned around and walked towards the third floor. At this time, there were basically no living people in the entire library. There were zombies lying on the ground eating corpses everywhere. Wang Mingyang scanned and killed these zombies. The entire library has a total of 5 floors, with nearly 4 million paper books in it. The second floor is mostly for language and literature, economics, culture, and education. The third floor is mostly for natural sciences, mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, nature, aerospace, astronomy, industry, transportation, military, etc. These categories are more suitable for Wang Mingyang to extract superpowers. Nearly 3 hours have passed since the 4th and 5th floors were scanned, and the zombies in the library have been cleared away. Wang Mingyang got his wish and scanned almost the entire library's collection into the system library. In this way, he can easily read millions of books even if he stays at home. Looking from the window, there are no living people on the street. There are zombies with fangs bared and hideous eyes everywhere. Rivers of blood flow on the street, and mutilated limbs and pieces of flesh are everywhere. Wang Mingyang took Suyu back to the first floor. There was no one alive in the hall. More than 20 zombies were wandering around, and the few men and women who ran in before also joined them. He casually ejected the steel needle from around his body, killing all the more than 20 zombies. Wang Mingyang also felt a little tired. It took less than a day for him to awaken his superpower, but he continued to use it for so long, which caused a lot of mental energy consumption. Seeing that there was no danger in the library, Wang Mingyang waved his hand and caused the 9 steel needles to turn into silver liquid, condense into 9 silver beads, and put them in his pocket. After scanning various books and magazines on the first floor, he took Suyu back to the reading area on the second floor, where he cleared a clean area and sat down. At this time, Suyu finally couldn't help the strong nausea in his heart. He ran to the side and released the palm that was tightly covering his mouth. The turbulent things in his stomach rushed out of his mouth, and he vomited loudly. After a while of violent retching, Suyu straightened up, patted his tall chest, took a breath, and then slowly returned to Wang Mingyang. "Drink some water. It will make you feel better." Wang Mingyang handed over a bottle of mineral water and smiled lightly. He had seen this kind of scene so many times that he had no worries in his heart. But he looked at Suyu's performance with some suspicion. Facing such a bloody scene for the first time, this little fish could endure it for so long, which made him a little surprised. "Brother Mingyang, thank you." Suyu took the mineral water, took a few sips, and stopped moving. "You are very good. Faced with such a bloody scene, you actually endured it for so long before vomiting. It's amazing." Wang Mingyang drank water and couldn't stop admiring his voice. "It's okay, Brother Mingyang. You must not know what my major is in college, right?" Suyu said in a low voice with slightly red cheeks. I really don't know. What did you learn?" Wang Mingyang muttered with water in his mouth. Suyu's white palms gently stroked a strand of sweat-stained hair on her cheeks behind her ears. Her gentle movements made her look charming. Her cheeks were slightly red, and she opened her small cherry mouth with a hint of shyness and softly spat out 2 words. Puff. When Wang Mingyang heard this, a mouthful of water spurted out from his mouth. "What? What did you say you learned?" Wang Mingyang shouted. Xiao Yuer whispered, "Forensic doctor." Holy shit. Wang Mingyang burst into tears and looked up and down at Suyu, who was tall and plump. 10,000 grass and mud horses walked through his heart. Such a beautiful and lively white and cute girl with steep peaks, deep valleys, protruding front and back. What kind of forensic medicine did he study? Can you believe this? Do you dare to play? Stab you dozens of times. The knife avoids the vital point. Just asking you if you believe it. This fish is poisonous. Forensic. This is a profession that makes people a little scared when they think about it, but they have to admire it. No wonder Suyu didn't vomit immediately when faced with such a bloody scene. In his previous life, Wang Mingyang killed a zombie for the first time, but was so disgusted that he vomited out the gall water. But I never imagined that Suyu, a little fish with a delicate body and a soft body, would actually study forensic medicine. I don't know what she was thinking. She was dealing with all kinds of corpses all day long. Was she not afraid at all? Anyway, Wang Mingyang felt that he definitely couldn't do it. While he was extremely surprised, he couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration. Of course, what he doesn't know is that not all forensic doctors need to deal with corpses frequently. Part of it is doing various appraisal-related work. There is no need to dissect a corpse. However, judging from Suyu's expression, she looked like she was dissecting. "Why did you choose this major? Are you a transfer student?" Wang Mingyang couldn't help but asked curiously. "No, I applied for it myself. I just want to be closer to Dad." Suyu smiled calmly, with a hint of reminiscence. "Oh." Wang Mingyang nodded. He knew that Aunt Lu's husband was once a policeman and died while arresting the suspect. Why not take the police academy exam? "My mother didn't let me, so I had to secretly apply for the forensic medicine major. When the notice came, I almost got my ass beaten by her." Suyu covered his mouth and chuckled, as if he was thinking of the scene in the past. "Why did you come here to intern? Your major is not right for you. We haven't found a suitable unit yet. Senior Li Qing said that there is a shortage of waiters here, so I will come here first and read a book. Su tapped his lips with his finger, looking helpless. Mom also insisted on letting me come here. I even told my father's previous workplace that they wouldn't let me go. Aunt Lu? Wang Mingyang was a little touched, but he didn't know Aunt Lu's fate at this moment. Brother Mingyang? Su bit his lips and hesitated to speak. Are these zombies only appearing here? There was a hint of hope in Su's eyes. Wang Mingyang had been busy fighting zombies and scanning books for storage, so he had no time to talk to her. Wang Mingyang killed the zombies cleanly and with such a chilling aura that the smart Su did not dare to disturb him at all. At this time, gossip started, and Su couldn't hold back his anxiety and asked. Wang Mingyang looked at the beauty in front of him and shook his head sadly. Have you seen Resident Evil? This situation must be widespread, and most people will turn into zombies. Then, my mother. Su had always had a calm expression, but finally couldn't hold it any longer. Before I went out, I told Aunt Lu to close the door and rest, but I don't know if she would listen to me and do it. Wang Mingyang shook his head and said calmly, I want to go downstairs to get my mobile phone and make a call, Su said with a hint of crying, and his eyes were slightly red. It's useless. The communication network is down. Wang Mingyang showed her the phone, but there was no signal on the interface. Then what should I do? Mom is alone at home. Will she? Su sobbed softly. At this time, she looked like a little girl in her 20s. There's no way, Su. It's too far from the convenience store. Even for me, it's impossible to get there safely in a short time. Wang Mingyang shook his head silently, not to mention whether he had this ability now. Even if he had this ability, it would be impossible for him to take a Su with no fighting ability through the entire city just to confirm whether Aunt Lu was safe. Regardless of the relationship, Wang Mingyang, who grew up in an orphanage, no longer had anyone who could make him risk his life. Mom, everything will be fine. Su clasped his hands together and prayed silently with tears in his eyes. As smart as she is, she knows exactly what the situation is like outside. As calm as she is, she knows better that rushing out rashly will only lead to a dead end. By following Wang Mingyang, she might still survive. If she leaves Wang Mingyang, she will definitely die. I don't know if my mother is still alive, but she will probably die on the way. When Wang Mingyang saw that Su stopped talking, he was once again impressed by the girl's cleverness and well-behavedness. In my previous life, I met many unscrupulous women. They thought they were beautiful and had a good figure, so they asked others to do this and that. They pretended to be miserable to win sympathy, acted coquettishly and acted cutely, and volunteered to sacrifice themselves. They would do anything to achieve their goals. The sad thing is that most men will be fooled by these green tea bastards. Thinking of this, Wang Mingyang couldn't help but smile bitterly. He was not one of these men at the beginning, otherwise he would not have been fascinated by Wang Ruoqing. In the end, he was framed by her and Zhao Min, and was buried. After reviving his life, Wang Mingyang will never make the same mistakes again. Compared with those women in the previous life, the Su in front of her knew how to choose and advance and retreat. Even though she was extremely anxious, she did not ask Wang Mingyang to take risks. A woman who studies forensic medicine is indeed extraordinary. Okay, you don't have to think too much. If Aunt Lu unfortunately turns into a zombie, what will you do if she sees what she looks like when she goes back? If she listens to me and closes the door before 12 o'clock, the zombie outbreak will last for a short time. You can't threaten her, and you still have a chance to meet her. Wang Mingyang comforted him casually, took out Fundamentals of Metal Science from his bag and read it. Metal control is indeed very powerful, and its energy consumption is much smaller than space cutting. It is a great weapon for dealing with zombie mutants in the early stage. Su nodded, wiped his tears, and was shocked to see Wang Mingyang holding a book and reading it. How long has this been? Brother, are you still reading? How about being so leisurely and leisurely? If zombies weren't everywhere on the streets outside, screaming and screaming, Su would have thought she was studying and dating Wang Mingyang. This damn sense of violation. After a while, Su calmed down, raised his head and asked, Brother Mingyang, is your ability to control steel needles innate? Wang Mingying raised his head when he heard this and shook his head slowly. No, I woke up today. Su Yu's eyes lit up. Then can I do it too? Wang Mingying nodded. All those who survive may awaken their powers, sooner or later. After the end of the world, a small number of people awaken their own powers, and most people can also awaken their powers by absorbing crystal nuclei obtained from zombies and mutated organisms. It's just that now, the crystal nuclei have not condensed in the zombies and mutated organisms, and it will take a week before they become common. Really? That's great. Su Yu burst into tears and smiled, temporarily putting aside his worries about his mother. I was thinking that if I awaken my powers earlier, would I be able to go home earlier to find my mother and protect her? An hour later, a system prompt sounded in Wang Mingyang's mind. It is detected that the host is familiar with fundamentals of metal science, and the fragments of the ability Metal Control are extracted +1 Metal Control fragments. 1. Reward reading value, 100 points. The reading value of the reward is 20 points more. Not bad. System, what does this extra fragment mean? The host currently has the ability to control metal, and the additional extracted fragments can be used to increase the strength of the ability. Okay, I understand. Read more, collect fragments, and improve your abilities, right? Understanding correctly. Let's go. Let's find a hotel nearby to stay for one night. Wang Mingying put away the book, stood up, stretched, and said calmly to Su Yu standing aside. Hotel? Su Yu's body trembled. This was too fast. Although she had liked this handsome and strong young man since she first learned about Wang Mingying from her mother more than a year ago, she was so frank that she lets go to a hotel and spend one night together. This was really a bit unprepared. What are you thinking about? You're not serious. It's already 5 o'clock now, and it will get dark in 2 hours. After dark, it will be even more dangerous. You must find a place to stay. Wang Mingying rolled his eyes, and he could tell by his expression that Su Yu Xian doesn't learn well. Although Su Yu is very beautiful, with a tall figure, convex front and back, fair and soft skin, well, the advantages lie entirely in Wang Mingyang's aesthetics. But it's not that easy to get into his car. Although Su Yu's IQ and EQ are very high, Wang Mingyang does have the idea of taking him as a follower. But Wang Mingyang, who has experienced betrayal, will not trust her so easily. The more beautiful a woman is, the more likely she is to lie. When Su Yu heard this, his pretty face turned red with embarrassment, and he quickly stood up, twirling the hem of his skirt with his fingers, feeling a little at a loss. Wang Mingyang felt that most of the energy in his body had recovered. He casually threw the metal silver beads in his pocket into the air and transformed into 9 steel needles. Su Yu followed him closely, gently grabbing the corner of his clothes with a jade hand. Wang Mingyang glanced at it, said nothing, grabbed his backpack, calmly stepped over the corpses on the ground, and walked downstairs with Su Yu. When passing by the counter, Su Yu let go of his hands, ran quickly behind the counter with his sneakers on, and found a mobile phone. But the voice from the phone disappointed her. Unable to connect at the moment, please call again later. Wang Mingyang did not lie to her. The cell phone signal bar did not display at all, and the call could no longer be made. Not daring to delay, Su Yu quickly took out a small backpack and put his cell phone inside. Returning to Wang Mingyang, he had already liquefied the metal that locked the door into a ball. He casually stretched and deformed the ball of molten metal, condensing it into a horizontal knife. After stroking the blade lightly, he tore a strip of cloth and wrapped it around the handle. Wang Mingyang handed the new knife to Su Yu. Take it. You need to learn to protect yourself and kill zombies with your own hands. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep up with me. With a calm tone but no refusal at all, Su Yu bit his jelly-like red lips, took a deep breath, took the slightly rough but still sharp horizontal knife, and held it tightly in his hand. She knew very well that in fact, she did not have much friendship with Wang Mingyang, and it was more just her own wishful thinking. Wang Mingyang is right. She must learn to protect herself. Only in this way can she find and protect her mother. As for whether he could keep up with him, Su Yu didn't want to think about it now. This knife weighs about 1.5 kilograms, which is a little heavy for Su Yu's delicate hands. Fortunately, she insists on exercising and is not the kind of little fairy who needs help to unscrew the bottle cap. Wang Mingyang took a few steps forward, grasped the door handle, and opened the door. The zombies on the street outside heard the movement and immediately rushed towards the steps screaming. Several steel needles shuttled back and forth between the zombies' heads, and a group of zombies fell to the ground before they could reach the two of them. After identifying the direction, Wang Mingyang remembered that there was a 5-star luxury hotel near this street. He could not remember the specific name. With his ability, he had never stayed in a 5-star hotel in his life. Don't ask why you haven't enjoyed it in the last 5 years. Ask just because you didn't have the ability before and couldn't get your turn. The provincial library is about 700 or 800 meters away from the hotel. Pointing in the direction, Wang Mingyang took the lead and ran along the side of the street. Suyu didn't dare to neglect it all. The corpses on the street were gradually surrounding her. She had no choice but to run as hard as she could, following Wang Mingyang's footsteps. The steel needles around his body kept going back and forth, and Wang Mingyang slowed down a little. Otherwise, with his current physical strength that is 3 times that of ordinary people, Suyu would never be able to keep up. The strongest control range of metal control is 5 meters, and the maximum range is 10 meters. But now there is no need to liquefy metal. You only need to control the steel needle to accurately pierce the zombie's head. So Wang Mingyang tried his best to control the steel needle to kill the zombies 7 or 8 meters away, and soon the two of them ran a distance of 400 to 500 meters. Passing by the corner of the subway crossing, Wang Mingyang suddenly found a familiar shop. The Divine Condor Weapon Shop. At this time, the store door was wide open, and inside there were 2 waitresses wearing hanfu, and a few zombies who were obviously customers, wandering around the store covered in blood. The young lady who wanted to ask him for his contact information before had her whole chin missing at the moment, and there was a large amount of blood on her chest mixed with shredded flesh. When she saw Wang Mingyang's head emerging, she immediately pounced on him. Holy crap! I just told you to leave Hammer's contact information, and there really is a zombie who wants to date me. Wang Mingyang couldn't help but feel excited, and quietly gave a thumbs up to his foresight. I thought about it, and for the sake of making a transaction, I rewarded this young lady. Several steel needles shot out and quickly eliminated the zombies. Suyu glanced at the girl in hanfu with some strange eyes. Wang Mingyang had killed so many zombies before without any trouble, but why did he visibly tremble when he saw this zombie? Just curious. He led Suyu through the streets full of zombies, killing more than 100 zombies along the way, followed by no less than a few hundred more. While Wang Mingyang controlled the steel needle to kill the approaching zombies, he also controlled the steel roadblocks along the way to twist and deform, constantly forming obstacles to block the following zombies. Soon the two of them ran to the door of a luxury hotel. The 4 characters Lyoha Baoli were hung on the roof. Before the end of the world, the most basic room in this hotel cost several thousand yuan a night. But now, Wang Mingyang can live wherever he wants without worrying about his wallet being empty. He turned around and killed the dozen zombies that followed him. The zombies in the distance were still desperately climbing up the obstacles he had set up. There was definitely no way to affect them in a short time. Wang Mingyang rushed to the hotel first, and 7 or 8 zombies were stuck in the revolving door, biting him through the glass door, leaving bloody traces. Several steel needles were shot through the gaps to quickly clean up the zombies. Wang Mingyang led Suyu over the corpses and walked in. The hall was in a mess, with several female zombies in work clothes lying on the counter and roaring. Wang Mingyang controlled the steel needle to kill the remaining zombies, leaving only one of them. With a calm and indifferent tone, Wang Mingyang leaned easily on the sofa in the hall and raised his chin at Suyu. Suyu, this zombie is left for you. It's up to you whether it's dead or alive. Suyu held the knife handle tightly, took a serious look at the female zombie, and whispered, Brother Mingyang, if I die, please come back to my house when you are able to see if my mother is still alive. Wang Mingyang's eyes moved slightly, and he nodded calmly, Go. I promise you.